What was banned at your school and why? Buckets. They banned us from carrying backpacks between classes, so a couple guys started carrying around their textbooks in buckets. The reason given was it was a security safety issue. We could still bring backpacks to our school, but they had to be stored in our lockers by the start of first block. Administrators banning the symptoms, not the cause. They can't ban themselves. After someone put Halo CE on the network drive, and it started to rival Microsoft Word for most used software in the building, they had to ban that. Unfortunately, the person responsible for making the announcement had the computer literacy of a mountain goat, so the official rule was something like don't be downloading Halo websites on the computers. At my school, someone did this and hid Halo CE in the special education folder. Nobody checked it because my school's special education program is notorious for having no oversight whatsoever. Superintendent decided that, I quote verbatim, cooking is an impractical art. Today, everyone can just buy PRE-made meals and no one has time to cook. Well, they could be smart and hire a personal chef. This person makes over $150K a year after taxes and is in charge of 3 schools in the district, totaling 3,000 students. This is high school, by the way. By that logic, we should probably ban math too. Everyone can just buy a calculator, or be smart and hire someone else to do it for them. A weird dude in my class got a lot of laughs by letting people give him titty twisters. Apparently, after repeated and increasingly hard titty twisters, the connective tissue behind his nipple broke. So this guy could literally stretch his nipple 5-6 inches off his chest. Obviously, being a teenager, and a weird one at that, he went around showing everyone and their mother his new ability. He got warned about it several times, and the final straw was when he was seen by the administration with an equally weird girl sucking his nipple 5-6 inches off his chest. They immediately banned titty twisters, but there was really no need. We were all pretty scarred by what we had seen from this kid. I can't believe I'm about to do this, but for those of you asking what this looked like, the best I can describe it would be an upside-down funnel. When he would pull on the nipple, all the loose skin surrounding it would come off of his chest and a sorta cone-shaped base would comprise the first 3-ish inches and the rest did pretty much look like dick nipples lol. It was probably a decent 3-4 inch diameter circle around his nipple of broken connective tissue, so I promise you, it came off his chest a solid 5-6 inches. Over 3 sports seasons during 3 years of high school. I can also tell you that it got to that point progressively. He was literally tugging on that nip in the locker room every day, stretching it out. But who am I to judge, I guess? You could only kind of tell that it was fucked up before he would pull on it. I'm not sure if that would eventually repair itself or just start to sag in the grossest way possible as he gets older. I hope you're happy now, Reddit. I'm going to have PTSD nightmares tonight. Sucking his 6-inch nipple. Holy shit, I nearly just died laughing. Students, please refrain from deep-throating each other's nipples. Our high school had some kind of contract with this really shitty school-appropriate search engine called Netrica. They banned using Google in school because it wasn't scholarly. Only Netrica was allowed. They tried extending this to beyond the school. They wanted us to use only Netrica for internet searches outside school, and sent home a pamphlet about internet rules outside the classroom. They said that students shouldn't have Android phones. I got a referral for having a Moto X smartphone. This was in 2015. I remember that shitty engine. My college tried to make us use it, even blocked Google on the school network. The thing is, this was an engineering school, including software engineering. 2 hours after it was blocked, a script was made to get around it. Realized I wasn't clear enough on the time frame. It was made and distributed to the entire campus in about 2 hours. In likelihood, it took about 20 or 30 minutes to make. You deserve a refund on tuition. Can't believe what you're saying. 'Cause I looked it up, and under student testimonials, there was the following. When it comes to quality, Netrica prevails over Google. Yo-yos. Kids turned them into flailing weapons. Some kid nearly lost an eye. Those were the days. 2-way hallways. Sounds crazy, right? The principal and his staff thought that it'd be a smart idea to have one-way hallways in order to cut down student traffic. If your locker was right around the corner and you had to go against the traffic in order to get there, you had to walk all the way around. If you passed your class on the way to your locker, you had to make 2 circles around the building. This significantly increased tardiness and write-ups. Terrible idea. Oh wow. I thought my school was the only one to try this. I believe the head teacher called it monopoly corridors because you could only go one way round. We had no time between classes, and some classes were in different buildings on different sides of the school, with a one-way entrance and exit to get back to the main building. There were times where we'd have to walk around the outside of the school, passing our next classroom's window, then ran into the main building and have to walk the opposite way around the interior just to get to the next lesson. It made a 2-3 minute walk turn into 5-10 minutes depending on congestion. It's like fucking Mr. Kidswatter and his ridiculous rules in Wayside School. Stay on the right to go up the stairs and on the left to go down. Looney Tunes characters on your clothes. It was the 90s at a shitty school. In my town in the 90s, Looney Tunes shirts represented what gang you were in. Edit, for those asking, a specific character represented a specific gang. The 90s gangsters were the shirts where the Looney Tunes characters were also dressed as gangsters. Was Space Jam a gang? Alright man, you in. Welcome to the jam. Binacles. Because we would smash them together, and whoever's helmet fell off first was the loser. So many bloody hands in grade 4. The green one with the axe was up because you could hook the top of the masks with it and pull them off on the upswing. Any liquid not in a clear plastic bottle. And then the only liquid we could have was water. The ban was because a girl in my grade got caught with vodka in a clear plastic bottle. Everyone in my school never understood the ban because vodka is clear like water, and the only reason the teacher even caught onto her was because another dumbass kid was joking around about alcohol, and the idiot with the vodka threw the bottle away in the garbage next to the teacher's desk. Edit, went to a school in Northern MN. Edit V2, since people keep asking. Went to a school in East Grand Forks, MN. We weren't allowed to have water bottles at all. Same reasoning. A teacher took mine once when he saw me filling it at the fountain, saying, "For all I know you could have vodka in that." As I was filling it, at the water fountain, time traveling me would go back and say I didn't realize vodka came out of this fountain. But at the time, I was just too dumbfounded to be that clever. Guys would hit each other in the balls as a prank or whatever. Apparently it was causing a big enough problem that the entire school had to attend an assembly where the deputy principal informed everyone. There has been a large outbreak of sack whacking. Entire school was laughing so hard. Even the deputy, who was a really strict and uptight guy, started laughing his ass off. We were also banned from playing with large balls, basketball, saucer balls at the same assembly. That was also received very well. My school would report you to the police if you were caught watching Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life. Happened twice in the year. It was big. Have no idea why, but they just didn't like it. Hello. What's your emergency? He's watching a Gmod ogre on YouTube. Did the police give a shit? No, they were brogers. Why do schools report legal things to the police? To scare the shit out of kids. To make themselves feel powerful. I hate that bullshit. The faculty member should be charged with filing a false report. Weren't allowed to dye our hair unnatural colors, banned hoop earrings and running like Naruto because a guy did that and fell down the stairs and broke his arm. Edit, thank you for the gold, kind stranger. The infamous anime run. I'm pretty sure running in the halls is banned in every school, regardless of how stupid you look when you do it. Steel rulers, some guy bashed the shit out of a bird with it. The word buckle. I kid you not. Back in grade 7, a few kids in one class had his word on a spelling test and thought it would be funny to just shout it out randomly. The teachers, believing it to be a code word for something more sinister, decided to outright ban the word across the school. Needless to say, the faculty became the brunt of many jokes, both from students and their parents. That reminds me of the episode of Recess where the school banned TJ from saying whomps. I like this one, perfectly showcases the near insanity of some school boards, edit, or principals, or whoever is making these rules. Edit, I spent too much time breaking rules and not enough time learning to spell. Edit, a very good grammar too. I was forced to delete a video of a high school friend singing a Chinese song. She said I could add evil subtitles. Thermometers in middle school. Some idiots decided it was a fantastic idea to add mercury to their nachos. Caused the school to be on lockdown until the hazmat team deemed it cleared. Edit, here is the link to the news article. Short selling stocks. Our class was the first to go through new mandatory financial literacy classes, and part of it was a stock market simulation. We began betting against the market when we set it up to crash specific stocks, and each time, our money rose exponentially. We had to fill out paperwork for each trade, which ended up amounting to around 30 pages of trades. At this point, we had trillions. Our teacher was also very condescending about how great she was at the market, so we then bought huge percentages of her stocks and sold them pennies on the dollar to crash her stocks as well. After a while, she checked everyone's progress and found we were trillionaires and went into a rage, even calling the company to see how we had cheated. They said we had short sold, which technically isn't cheating, but she still disqualified us from winning the class game and gave us Bs. Now, there's a disclaimer before every class that says you'll automatically fail if you short sell. TL, dear, we manipulated the stock market in an 8th class financial literacy class to become virtual trillionaires, got a B. And now our method is an automatic F. I don't understand what the problem was. It's pretty accurate to real business practices. Yogurt eating contests were immediately banned at my high school when an overzealous football lineman vomited about a quart of yogurt and then attempted to re-eat the yogurt to win the contest. Domino vomit effect throughout the cafeteria. We were banned from the gym at lunch, used to go in the gym, shoot hoops, etc. Eventually, we were playing dodgeball with basketballs. Errant throw broke the fire alarm and set it off for the whole school. We had to stay in the cafeteria after that. Candy necklaces at my middle school. One day, a couple of my friends came into the playground before school started with a candy necklace each, which immediately got everyone's attention. After we all demanded to know where they got them and how much they cost from the corner shop down the street, and 10p, as I recall, one or two others said they might go and get one for themselves before school started. That might go turned into them sprinting to the shop once one kid figured out how to weaponize them, holding one piece of candy between their teeth, stretching forward the elastic and biting down. It would catapult pieces of candy at whatever it was aimed at. That morning, a few kids bought a candy necklace each and played a game of firing bits at each other. The next morning, all 400 kids that attended that school were engaged in all-out necklace war. Every single one of us must have had at least one and our own technique for maximizing the firing rate. After doing our best recreation of trench warfare all morning and having the kind of fun that only comes with an entire playground full of kids all playing the same game, we were all ushered into the assembly hall to be told that candy necklaces were now banned. Nobody lost an eye. Just in case you were wondering. Edit, I grammar badly. We used to make hornets out of folded paper and rubber bands. Very similar in concept. They considered banning rubber bands because of this, then realized how stupid that would be. They considered banning rubber bands because of this, then realized how stupid that would be. Yeah, they actually went through with it in my school. The faculty was pissed, because the only legitimate uses for rubber bands were mainly for staff members. Dark jeans. Their logic was that when we'd stand against white walls resting against them, the color of the jeans would rub off. I have never wanted to wear red or green jeans and then go and rub my butt all over a school's wall so badly before. Hi, it's me. Your school wall. It was the South, and they keep the AC on too high because it's so freaking hot outside. Girls would wear shorts to be cool when outside, but they'd get too cold inside. Thus, the blankets to keep their legs warm in class. Of course, blankets are opaque, and they were already being used to cover up legs. Well, if a girl started sharing a blanket with a guy, yeah, things could get a little handsy. T-ball was banned for a long time because a kid hit the ball and threw the bat to the side so he could run the bases. It hit a pregnant teacher in the stomach and she had a miscarriage. Holy fuck, that turned grim fast. They wanted to ban Gale and someone kept finding alternate IPs and domains. The events that led to this started with a fight breaking out in the cafeteria where one person stabbed the other with a fork. The next day, metal forks had been banned and we were only given plastic sporks to eat with. A couple of weeks later, another fight broke out in the cafeteria and a group of 3 students beat another student using the cafeteria trays. After that, we had styrofoam trays in the cafeteria. Shoulda knocked someone out with a textbook. Hit him with your TI-84. Earrings on, guys. This turned into a huge thing with students doing walkouts and yelling at teachers. It really was a stupid rule, and as far as I know, was ultimately dropped. My school just banned all jewelry except watches unless it was a small retaining stud in the ear. Trench coats. After Columbine, they tried to ban chains and spikes at my school. but that didn't work out so well. Kappa clothing because people would cover the top of the logo so that it looked like a woman with her legs open. The things children did before the internet. The Captain Underpants series. In elementary school, I begged my dad for some money for the book fair. He likes the idea of me reading, and gave me some bills on the condition I buy books and not the toys, posters, etc. found at book fairs. I came home with a handful of comics and graphic novels. I remember Captain Underpants being one. He scolded me, saying that money was explicitly to be used on books. I was grounded, and he took them away, and I cried in my room. While grounded, he leafed through them and saw the literary value. He also started to see it was just presented in a more digestible form for children. He came in, apologized, took me out for ice cream, and asked me to read them to him. I love my dad. These plastic rubber bracelet things. Basically, if someone broke your shag band, you supposedly had to have sex with them. A natural law, according to some, but never, to my knowledge, ever enforced. The school got wind of it and became horrified that a bunch of 13-years would ever think something like this reasonable, and came down on us with an iron fist. I vividly remember one teacher scornfully say so-called shag bands and then spit in disgust. It was hilarious. Someone decided to make an Instagram account consisting solely of porn with teachers' heads photoshopped onto the porn stars' bodies. I'm only in my 30 seconds, and it's crazy how much has changed since I was in high school. One kid printed off a ton of porn and handed it out in the hallways. That was as high-tech as our porn incidents ever got. I think maybe 2 kids in my entire school had a cell phone. Hair color, colored bras, men with long hair, and nail polish. One of my 8th grade teachers was a particularly uppity Mormon woman who was obsessed with rules and modesty. She hated me for a variety of reasons, and then had my sister in her classes the next 2 years and was constantly getting on her case for breaking obscure uniform rules. The most entertaining of these infractions had to do with my sister's bra. The uniform rules said that visible undergarments had to be white, so first it was that my sister was wearing a colored bra that was visible under her white shirt. Then, when my sister went out and bought a white bra, it was that you could still see it through her shirt. Nude bra, it was that you could still see the outline. Then, when my sister had given up and started wearing only navy shirts, the teacher complained that she could still see the outline of my sister's bra through the shirt. After that, I think my mum went in and asked the teacher why she was so obsessed with my then 12-year-old sister's bra, which I think shut her up. That teacher still gets made fun of in my family sometimes. WTH. What's wrong with bra's outline? Your sister might as well wear shirt 10x her size. Candy canes. Apparently, they were a safety hazard because you could suck on them and sharpen them into a point, which could then theoretically be used to stab somebody. Most of our school suspected that it was simply a way of getting the Ugly Christmas Sweater Club, a group of guys who wore ugly sweaters, to school and roamed the hallways handing out candy canes while playing Christmas music, in trouble. It was by far the dumbest thing to ever happen at my high school. Were you still required to carry a sharpened wooden stick filled with a lead substitute to every class? It doesn't translate well into English. But gay piles. Basically, if someone was on the ground because they fell or were wrestling with someone or whatever, this was middle school, someone would yell "gay pile," and everyone nearby would throw themselves in a pile on top of them. It wasn't a problem until some 20 kids decided to throw themselves on top of some poor guy. Edit, Teal how to summon my fellow Swedes. Vila I Frid. Mean Inkorg. In America, they are called dog piles. I knew them as pylons in the UK. Edit, I can't wait to use all these new phrases on my soon-to-be crushed friends. Edit 2, based on Ugal Lee, who's a bandy, thanks for the hypothesis. Hugnarf and UBUM off. It had seemed there appears to be a north-south divide of pylon in the north and bundles in the south. The only current anomaly is at Twisted Pants, who was a northeasterner shouting bundles. For UK respondents, it'd be interesting to know what you said and where in the UK you were. Edit 3, thank you to all the respondents I have. Please keep commenting, I need more data, Oaks. The hypothesis seems to be holding. Edit 4, to anyone interested and willing to earn some sweet karma, you should plot a geographical map of bundles, pylon, and variants based on the comments. Whilst I would do it just for its own sake, I can't as I'm away for a week and am on mobile only. A good sub to post it in would be Redata's Beautiful. Selling candy. Kids would spend their lunch money on gum candy at Bulk Barn and would pieces for 25c each. People at my school did this. The school banned it and it became like a black market. They would go to a corner shop and buy a shitload of soda, candy and that sort of thing and sell bags of it. Pens. I'm not joking. Kids would buy somewhat fancy pens and then there would be a bunch of trading. Dude, let me snag that uni ball. I'll give you 2 Pilot G2 as in commotion. I remember there was a kid that everyone envied because of his Mont Blanc pen. Pretty soon, the school just banned using any outside pens and issued 2 of those crappy BIC round sticks. We were crafty though and started to replace the ink cartridges with those from our fancier pens. So yeah, it was basically prohibition, pen edition. In middle school, they banned the jerseys of a Japanese baseball player on the Chicago Cubs. The vice principal believed that Fukudum Foo Kudo Mei was actually a joke, and he believed it. Said, "Fuck you, do me." True story. Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic and Pokemon cards. Some of the kids at school started trading and selling them during lunchtime, but it got so bad as the kids were actually selling stolen cards they got from other students. My friend was swirled one morning for his deck, and later that day he saw a kid with his Dark Magician card. He knew it was his because he had a tendency to chew the ends of his cards. The teachers put a stop to all of it, including playing the card games and bringing them on school grounds. I feel so bad for your friend because when I was around 10, some kids in the grade below me bashed me on the head and stole my Matchedak's completed album excluding 100 clubs. And then I chased them around the school and ended up slide tackling the guy who had my album and knocked him into a locker. The cards flew everywhere and in the swarm of kids I lost over half of my cards. Mini Sticks. Young Canadian Stinny Hockey Sticks Extreme Violence had this little Bible study group that would meet during lunch once a week. It grew in size really fast, so some of the parents of the kids started bringing homemade lunches to give to the kids that attended. Anyone was accepted to join. They never ran out of food. And it was free, so kids that didn't have money or wasn't on the food plan could eat something other than straight junk food. It was stuff like sandwiches and chips, but still better than the shitty cafeteria food. After a while though, the group grew a little too big, to the point where the school board found out about it and shut down the parents bringing lunches for the attendants because it was lowering the amount of kids buying from the cafeteria. Fucking ridiculous. After that, they instituted a rule that parents couldn't bring lunches to kids anymore. The overall reasoning was it lowered the cafeteria profits. If you didn't have money or a lunch, you were shit out of luck. If this was a public school, then that excuse they gave you was just pure BS. I'm on a school board, and at least for my school, the cafeteria doesn't have any profits. Any funds they collect for students who could afford to purchase lunches went right back into the food fund and was returned to Ohio Department of Education at regular intervals. More likely than not, they were told that there could be some risk to having a Bible study group on school grounds, and they decided to clamp down on it before they got in trouble. Remember, many school boards are strictly volunteers who may or may not have any legal experience. They'd rather not get sued by a wayward, upset parent when all the board is doing is volunteering their time. We weren't allowed to yell Kobe anymore. This was mostly because of kids shooting balled up paper into trash cans and missing terribly. TLDR stoners outsmart administration. Drug dogs. They started bringing in drug dogs in my sophomore year. They would smell the lockers and cars, and if one hit on your locker or car, you had to go open them up and let the school search it. By my junior year, a group of stoners had enough of it. They took bong water and put it in a bunch of spray bottles and sprayed it on all the lockers and cars they could. My school had about 1,400 kids in it. It took one time of having 300 kids pulled out of class to have the lockers searched to make them rethink the policy. What really got the parents to force the school to stop though was the cars. When drug dogs hit on a spot, they kind of go nuts. Imagine 25 cars getting a hit and having dogs scratch the hell out of the paint for a search that found nothing. Many parents didn't push too hard, but some were demanding that the school pay for the damage. So no more drug dogs. Well played by the stoners. When was this? In my school, any drug dogs were taught to sit quietly. Sitting was the sign. Nothing would ever make a sound. Aerosol cans. Because we would put them in the toilet, set them on fire and blow the toilet up. That's just fucking stupid. They should have banned the toilets instead. Edit. Wow. My first gold. Thanks, kind stranger. Edit 2. Okay, so today I've learnt no school in America has toilets anymore. Your school sounds awesome. Talking at lunch. Why? Really, I just don't know. KFC. Due to one boy constantly bringing it in. He won the biggest fan of KFC award at the end of school. My school finally banned the freshman auction after they realized it resembled slavery. Carrying backpacks in class cause terrorists and shit. What sort of fucked up school did you go to where kids were treated as terrorists? Edit, can't say I'm surprised it was America. Y'all motherfuckers need Jesus. Something else. When I was in high school, we got permanent markers banned. Someone organized a game of assassins where everyone is given a target to kill, and if you're successful, you inherit their target. It was one to enter and the winner gets the jackpot. We had around 150 students out of the 600 in the school participating. The objective was to mark your target with the Sharpie on their skin and they were then declared dead. This could only be done in the hallway or the cafeteria, not in class or off campus. Well, our vice principal decided she wanted to participate, saying that if she won the money, she'd use it to buy something for the school. Fair enough. We thought so. We let her in. Well, one of my friends ended up with her as a target. So in between classes one day, he sneaks up behind her and does his best Sam Fisher assassination attempt, grabbing her mouth and slashing her throat with the Sharpie. Well, that was just too much emotional stress for our poor VP. She took his Sharpie, had him serve ISS and forced us to discontinue the game. No more Sharpies could be used by students or staff, and no one knows whatever became of the prize money either. We kept it in a jar in our principal's office so no one could take it. So we all hated our VP even more than we did before. Your friend is a fucking legend. At first read through, I thought you said had him serve ISIS. Rubber bands. People used to fold paper into little triangles called hornets and shoot them at rivals. I did that. I used my hair clips sometimes. Those things hurt. Sweaters with zippers. A new progressive principal found a correlation between those dang hoodlums and zippered sweaters. Obviously, everyone thought she was insane. So we all put tape over our zippers. Took a week to get back to normal. What the fuck? In my school, we weren't allowed to wear sweaters or any pullover hoodies. And hoodies with zippers had to be open and not closed. The reason was so it was harder for us to sneak in contraband. Complete opposite of what your principal had in mind. Beyblade. We used to flip bin lids over to act as arenas for our battles. One lad wanted to watch a battle more closely and got hit in the face when the Beyblades hit each other. Busted his lip. No more angry, spiky spinning tops. Fuck's sake. Connor. Any type of coin. Seriously? High school, about 7 or 8 years ago. I was a freshman eating lunch, and then heard some screaming and some kid being rushed out of the cafeteria. Turns out, some kid whipped a quarter across the cafeteria, and it flew kind of like a frisbee right into this kid's eye and sliced it, which completely tore it open. The principal talked to us all about it in the auditorium. He had to have surgery obviously, and I think the victim's family sued the aggressor's family. I still remember I was eating curly fries and a slice of pizza that day. Edit, oh boy, obligatory most upvoted comment speech. Thanks guys. At my mum's school, guys were snapping towels at each other in the locker room. One guy turned around and got a wet towel in the crotch, which tore open his scrotum. Got carried out on a stretcher in front of like half the school. This makes me want to cry. Not for the kid, but just because. That sounds so painful. Toasters. We got in trouble for making toast in a math class because our teacher was notoriously oblivious. Like we full-on snuck a toaster into the classroom and made toast with jelly and distributed it under the desks 2 class periods in a row, after getting chewed out for being disrespectful. We then designed our class shirts with the come and take it flag with a toaster in the middle. The head of school somehow didn't find out about the shirt design until we had them and wore them to school, despite the fact that he was a class sponsor. Edit, a picture of the shirts. All the other common areas were taken. So my friend group would hang out at the front of the school. The VP told us we could no longer congregate there as we were a fire hazard. He threatened to write us up if we didn't disperse, even after we told him that in the event of a fire, we would be the first out the door. This went on for a week until we got black t-shirts and printed fire hazard on them. We wore them a lot. He banned shirts that said fire hazard on them. So we printed shirts that said still not on fire. He banned amateur printed shirts. So we had them professionally printed by an internet company and kept the receipts with us. Eventually, the ringleaders got called into a meeting where the superintendent told him to stop harassing us. Didn't stop us from harassing him. However, then came the do work, Dennis shirts. Edit, I realized that we were a bunch of inflammatory little shits. Maybe that's why he was concerned. Actually, my best friend was a pretty decent graphic designer for a 17-year-old. Edit 2, a high school friend just reminded me of this one. The same VP also told the printer of the yearbook, at the last minute, to yank any mention of two people for making a political statement in their senior photos. So, since they were on a timeline, they removed all instances. Turns out the political statement was wearing a hijab. The two students were Muslim women. The vice principal just told the yearbook company to disappear students because they were wearing religious items mandated by their culture. The students, seniors, were understandably upset. The parents were talking to the ACLU about their options. His solution was to hand out 8.5x11 stickers to put over the last page of photos that listed the two women out of order. This guy was full of missteps. I think Altoids were in middle school. After one wise guy put a turd in one of the cans and went up to a vice principal and asked him if he wanted a mint. Crystal meth. Not sure why though. Chem teacher was getting uppity. My school banned so many hard drugs and they never explained why. The ruffians. I feel sorry for you. All the good schools give out crystal meth as a reward for good work. Soccer balls for playing ball tag. They let us play with foam balls, but they were like throwing popcorn into the wind. Thus sewer ball was born. The slapping game. Basically, what you had to do was slap the back of someone's neck as hard as you could and try to leave a red mark. Apparently some people got knocked the fuck out, so they banned it.